I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I'm here with Miriam Delicado. And we are absolutely overjoyed to see Miriam alive and looking so well after her auto accident. And she is doing this as a follow-up interview because she has some things to say about the times we're in and what people need to be mindful of. So go ahead, Miriam.
Thank you, Carrie. I just want to make a little note to say thank you to everyone for all of their support since this car accident, and I'm recovering very quickly as a result of all the healing energy that's being shared. And in fact, that sort of leads me into one of the things that I wanted to talk about today with everyone, and that is how we really need to step things up. We need to step things up as a community. We need to step things up in unity and make our voices a lot stronger than they have been. It's very clear to me how this network of people that are working in this light in order to educate, in order to inform, and in order to bring about change for humanity and the earth are really connected to one another. Because I've had so many people through this accident communicate with me, and the way that they're hearing about it and the channels that they're hearing about it is fantastic. So it's a really positive part of this that I have learned very, very clearly. And in saying that, I know that this particular time that we're in is very delicate. And it is truly the time of choice. And I've been talking about this time of choice almost since I became public. But we are fully moving into a time where difficulties are starting to arise for individuals, communities, families. And we need to pay closer attention to what it is that we as the individual are doing. Every day of your life, you have choices, and I talked about this with you in the past, but this choice has to do with how well you are going to form the bonds between the people in your life and the people in your community. And the community means this community of light workers, people that are working to educate. What steps are you going to take in order to bring about disclosure of this very, very important subject matter? And not only in the area of UFOs and ETs and aliens and all of these things, but really disclosure of what is happening in our world right now and what is going to happen. What is it that the scientists actually know? What is it that the philosophers have known for a very long time? And what is it that the indigenous people have known and do know at this very time? This point of disclosure that I'm talking about is coming, it needs to come from all directions, and that includes the individuals. So if you have a story to tell, it's time to start sharing it, because if you continue to remain silent, then we as a people are not going to be able to move forward. We are not going to be able to overcome any great difficulties that may be challenging us in the future. I know and have known for 21 years that this particular time that we're in right now, I call it a time of insanity, when people are completely losing their rational selves. And we need to be very, very careful of who we align ourselves with, who we form friendships with, who we associate with. And even for someone as connected and in sync as I am, I have still had situations in the past year and the last 6 months where I've allowed people to come into my life who were very destructive and harmful. So this is something that was shared with me a very long time ago by the Tall Blondes. They have restated to me numerous times in the past year to be very aware of my surroundings, aware of who I'm associating with, and that I needed to not be distracted. Because these people are coming into our lives to distract us from speaking, from telling our stories, from being strong in our communities, from being the change. And that means anything from writing your congressman to say, I want disclosure, to creating a community garden and collecting heritage seeds, which, by the way, is going to become more and more and more difficult. So I have continually talked to people about collecting their heritage and heirloom seeds, and I'm telling you that if you don't have your seeds today, it is almost too late. Because new laws are being formed all over the planet, and that includes all over in North America, where legislation is being brought in for organic farming to be almost, illegal, collecting of seeds illegal, and maybe the next step is the owning of heritage seeds. So if we as a community do not take a stand as one voice and one people for one earth, we may as well just sit back, relax, and wait for the end, because it no longer can anyone turn around and say that they can be complacent about anything, and I mean anything that's going on right now. Different organizations, different groups around the world know what's coming. They're making preparations for it. Pay attention. Open your eyes. Look at the news. Is it telling you anything? No. It's talking about gossip. Dig deeper and look at what it is that's happening with seed banks around the world, with where the money's flowing, who's in control of our finances, how that money is being distributed. And let's think about this. How much money has gone missing with governments, not only in North America, South America, but around the globe? Where is that money being funneled into? Pay attention. Pay attention to these things, because they're going to be keys to be able to lead you to some very, very serious answers. Now, I strongly suggest you have your seeds, that you have your preparations, that you connect with those that you need to connect with, because if something horrible does happen in your community or in your area, you will be fine. You can have peace in your heart knowing that you have already made steps to communicate and to open your heart to your neighbor. And really, this isn't about digging bunkers and going and hiding from the world. This is really about opening yourself up to the world and to what it is that's coming. So this is a really strong message, to not be blindsided by all of these distractions that are around us right now. And this time of, I call it the time of insanity, hitting us and what we're moving through, rational people are becoming irrational. Spiritual people are becoming vicious and confused and vindictive. And on the flip side, people that were vindictive and this type of focus in their lives of just materialism are completely flipping and becoming spiritual. So pay attention to who you're associating with. And if you have an open heart, it's one of the ways of being able to walk through this very difficult time. If you're completely confused about the people around you, stop and meditate. It's going to be able to bring your body, your mind, and your spirit back into alignment of who you are and what your intended purpose is here on earth at this time. Many of the people that come to Project Camelot in particular are very focused on details, scientific details, this type of thing. It's great to have that, but at the very, very end of all of this science is something that the indigenous people themselves understand, and that is energy and how it actually works. So always remember to remain in your heart through this process, because if you can't remain in your heart, then no matter how much knowledge and information you have, it's not going to do anything for you. And by remaining in your heart, you're going to be connected to the right people, you're going to make the right decisions and choices, and you are most importantly going to bring about change quickly and rapidly. If this community made the choice of any one particular matter, and that is, for example, disclosure, and every single person on Project Camelot that ever entered into any one of those videos whether it be on the website, on YouTube, on different websites, and said, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes of my day and write a very quick letter to my congressman asking him or her to bring about disclosure. The power of that one single step would be extraordinary. Now, there's a lot of issues that have been coming up for a number of people over the course of the last year. One of the big questions that people keep asking me about personally is swine flu and vaccines and plagues and what it is that's coming. Listen, the bottom line is that it is eventual. It is not a question of if, it is a question of when these things will take place. Is it going to take place in the next day? I don't know. In the next year? I don't know. But I can tell you this, that no matter what we choose to do, we must remember that one of the greatest powers that we have is to remain in balance with nature and Mother Earth. It is not going to be through the sciences that we find the cure for an illness that was derived from nature. It is within ourselves that we are going to be able to do that. If someone walked up to you and they walked out of a factory that's had poison, and you saw the signs and there's poison symbols everywhere, and they walk in with their plastic suits and they walk back out and they give you an apple and they hold it up to you and you say, great, I'm hungry, can I have that? Are you really going to eat that apple that walked out of a building that is creating poison? It looks good and they're going to tell you it's good. But it's up to you to decide whether or not it's actually going to be right for you or not. No one's going to give you the answer. You need to go inside. Because if you are meant to be here for the entire path of your life, then, until you're old and you're fortunate enough to have those gray hairs move in, then that's great. And if you're not, you could walk out of the house and get hit by a car like I did a couple weeks ago. We never know truly what's going to happen in our lives, no matter how connected you are. So what you need to do is remain in your heart, and you need to remain clear in that, and know that the community that you're in, this community in particular, is of light workers, of scientists, of philosophers, of seers, all of these different areas, of artists. This community cares. So I'm saying, take some action, because the next year that I'm telling you about is going to get worse. It's going to get more difficult. There's going to be more financial problems. There's going to be more difficulty for you to feed your families, for you to buy new shoes for your children. And it's okay, because you know what? We're all going through that. The way that we're going to be able to get through is to communicate and have community with one another. And to work within those structures that are not working for us. And not to tear them down and crush them and throw them away, but to work with what we currently have and just make our voices heard. All we need to do is make our voices heard. Write a letter, ask for disclosure, start asking questions, dig deeper, and start making some action.
Okay, I want to go to a different area, Miriam, and that was very well said, by the way. I want to find out whether or not you want to make any kind of statement about the need for Indigenous people to come forward at this time, because this is a great opportunity and you don't know who might be watching.
Thank you. Carrie, we've had numerous conversations since we've met, and everyone out there knows that I have a very close connection to Indigenous people. The connection that I have is from my heart. It's from my mind. It's actually from my soul. And it is critical that the indigenous cultures around the world come together, I have a fear almost. And I don't say that often, but I do. I have almost a shaking feeling with this that is of great concern, because they're running around and I see it happening. They're trying to make those connections and bridge the gaps and bring the voice. But there's so many people who are white people getting in the way of that voice coming together. And even within indigenous communities and indigenous cultures, there's a lot of ego involved. And a lot of these cultures are talking about the feminine being brought forward. And yet, this is something that has still not been fully accepted by them themselves, even though they're talking about it. We're running out of time on this earth. We're running out of this time of choice. And we're still in it, and there's still hope. But the indigenous cultures need to come together in the public eye, unified. And this is not going to happen from white people stepping forward and planning and organizing. This is from the indigenous culture themselves. We are going to be there to assist them in this change, to work together to bridge that gap between the balance of nature and what it is that we have here in the structured world, what we've built. We need to come together. That means that on both sides, we need to set certain things aside and say that we no longer have the need for this. And that these things do not have to completely change and flip. You know, not everyone on Earth needs to go and live in the jungle. And not everyone in the jungle needs to come out here and live in this world. But what is it that both parties can learn from one another? And that's where the open heart needs to come in, even within the indigenous culture themselves. And every single day of my life in the past, year and a half, almost 2 years, has been focused on trying to bring that energy to these people coming together. But unfortunately, I've experienced some very, very, very dark, and I mean dark, energies that have been coming forward through people to stop this process from happening. And one of the things that I can say about the indigenous world is that I'm not easily fooled. And so when I hear someone say a word that says heart, I expect to feel it in mine. And if I don't feel it in mine, then I'm not listening to what they're saying, because they are speaking with a tongue that is a lie. So the indigenous cultures need to come together, and they need to do it quickly, because the situation on this earth with disease, with poverty, with starvation, with natural disasters, with political structures, with economic structures, all of these things are being broken down. They're crumbling because they're not working. So if we don't step forward as the one voice for one people, for one world, we're not going to have one earth left. Not with human beings on it. This isn't about saving humanity. It's not even about saving the earth. It's really about saving ourselves and making the choice as far as what path we want to take. So if anyone wants to begin building that bridge in order to create that with the indigenous world, I'm here. And I have friends, I have contacts in different parts of the world who are also preparing to make that happen.
Yes, and Camelot is also here with our cameras and with our team. that's joined us as of late, and we will go anywhere to film any kinds of messages that those people want to put out there. And we're standing right behind you and thinking that this is the time when we outside, in the outside world, would love to hear from the indigenous people who have been sort of the guardians of the earth for all these years, for all the millions of years that humanity has been occupying this lovely planet. And the time is now. And so I second that.
Well, what I would love to see happen, Carrie, is some of these cultures that are trying to get their messages out to the world to really understand that they need to stop being distracted themselves. And instead of relying on one individual or one group, that they really need to open the doorway to any and all of them. And instead of saying, having people come and just happen upon them, to just really say, okay, I'm here now. Come to me. I'm ready to speak. I'm ready to share. The indigenous world has knowledge that the scientific world is just beginning to understand. Great. I've had understanding of the universe and how it works and mathematics and astrophysics and so forth for years. It doesn't do anything. Not until we begin to share that. And how do you share it? You can only share it through your heart. You can only share it when you become vocal. And you begin to use those two things in sync with one another to be able to bring about that change. We have to start looking at the basics. We have to be able to start looking at our families, our communities, our infrastructure, our food, our environment. Basics. Look at them. What can you do and take action? There is absolutely no more time to be sitting on the couch. You have to get up. So I want to just say, let's move things forward and let's get to work. And if there's any of you out there who are able to assist in any way to bring these indigenous cultures together, I'm here, Project Camelot's here, there's a lot of other people that are standing with us. Let's start making this happen so that we can create what I've talked about from the beginning, which is a world gathering of humanity.
Thank you, Miriam. That's a lovely message. Why don't you give your website so that people can contact you and an email address, and we'll also print it on the screen.
My email address is alienbluestar.com, and you can email me at miriam@alienbluestar.com. And I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you.
Thank you very much.